The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. This is Jay from ShopWorks. Thank you for attending our webinar today. It's, I think, an exciting subject, 3 ways to improve your order workflow. Before we get started, I want to go over with you a couple of bookkeeping things. First of all, I cannot hear you. You can hear me. So if you have any questions, we do encourage that. We want you to ask questions. And there's a question pane. So when you logged into go to this webinar, there's a question pane presented to you. And in that pane, you can type in your questions, type them throughout the webinar, and I will save time at the end of the webinar to answer those questions. And I really do encourage that. We want this to be interactive. This webinar is recorded, so if you miss part of it, if you want to share it with another coworker, if you just want to view it at a later date, we will send out an email to everyone after the webinar on where you can watch that. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel. And lastly, there is a handout. The PDF document that I'm showing you today is part of the presentation. You can download it through the GoToMeeting pane. And also I'll be asking, we'll have a couple polls today. So in those polls, I'm going to ask you a quick question and then get the response, and then I'll share that response with you. So again, we're striving to make this kind of interactive and to answer questions. All right, so let's get started. 3 ways to improve your order workflow. Why are we talking today about order workflow? And why is workflow so important? Well, the first reason it's so important is time is money. We all know this age-old saying. It's true, very much true in our industry. And from our analysis, we've determined that approximately 50% of your time or more by all your staff, you and all your staff, is spent managing sales orders and getting them out the door. So that's what we mean by workflow. Taking a sales order, producing that sales order, shipping that sales order, and invoicing it. All of that together is a minimum of 50% of you and your staff's time. That's what people in our industry do, is they spend time cranking out orders. We have a very unique industry. That is another reason why workflow is so important. All of you encounter high volumes of orders. You're manufacturing those orders on very short timelines. And even though our industry is not traditional manufacturing, quote, it is manufacturing, because you're custom designing things, you're custom manufacturing it, and you're shipping it out the door on very short time frames. So that means that our industry is kind of unique in that way, and it puts some stress on your organization, which you know because you deal with that on a daily basis. And the third reason it's so important is quality matters. Obviously, every product across all industries, quality matters. But it's a little bit more important in our industry, I believe, because of tight margins, meaning you can't have mistakes because you're going to lose money on jobs. And also, you guys compete. Your industry is very competitive. People who do embellished products is a very competitive industry. So if you mess up an order, or if the quality is not good on your orders, then that can mean that you're going to lose business to your competition. And of course, if that's a long-term problem, this means you're not going to be around long as a business. So what I'd like to do now is just very briefly kind of go through the typical shop. When someone calls our company or requests a demo, and they kind of describe to us what they're looking for and why they're looking for software and what their problems are, this is kind of the story we hear from almost everyone. So how most shops work before they have industry-specific software is they use 3-part forms. Those forms are used to take sales orders, and communication between the departments, as showed by our little graphic here, it's slow and it's paper driven because it's based off of 3-part forms. So that means things can get lost, those forms can get lost, and it's also very time consuming, not only to write up the orders, but if there's any changes on the orders, it's time consuming. If a customer calls you and asks questions and you're relying on 3-part forms, it's time consuming because someone has to get up from a desk, go find that piece of paper, and then call the customer back. Also in the typical shop, we see that production scheduling is a nightmare. Most companies are maintaining it on magnet boards, spreadsheets, sometimes even on paper. And the big problem that everyone faces is they don't really know what the schedule is. and they don't have any predictive tools. So how they typically operate is they just take every single order that they can get, because nobody likes to turn away business, and then they basically force production. So whether that's putting extra overtime on their production staff, pressure on their production staff, subcontracting out jobs when they don't have to, it comes in many forms. But the bottom line is they don't have good tools for predicting and managing their production. That's also what we see in the typical shop. And lastly, shipping information. So when they go to want to ship something in the typical shop, that data is typically being re-entered into UPS, FedEx, or other shipping programs. It's all done manually. And the same thing is true for invoicing. When they get ready to invoice a sales order, they're generating those invoices manually in QuickBooks or other accounting packages. And again, that's more double data entry. That's more chances for an error. And it's simply just more work. So what's the end result of all this when you have a shop that's running like this? Well, you're entering data manually into multiple systems. That's increasing both your workload and your errors. Changes to orders is difficult and labor intensive because, as I mentioned before, if a customer calls and wants a question, or if you have to change an order, you're having to get it from your desk. People are having to go and talk to other people. That's not bad, but it's time consuming. It's also difficult for customers to get, for business owners and managers to get real-time analytics. So that makes it hard for them to make informed decisions. It's very difficult for them to know what their sales were in a particular month with the snap of a finger, or even more detail than that. They typically have to jump through hoops, do spreadsheets, and do other things to get the information they want. And lastly, it's hard for your customers to get answers. So if a customer contacts you, we've kind of touched on this a few times, but it's important to mention it again. If customers call you, you have to chase paper. You have to talk to people to get answers, and then you have to call the customer back, and that's just very time consuming. So the bottom line of all this, when people are kind of running in this mode, the typical shop mode, the bottom line is they have higher cost to process an order. So whenever they process order, labor costs are higher. It's difficult to grow their business, and it can also be frustrating for customers, employees, and management, because everybody knows how inefficient it is, and you're spending a lot of time chasing your tail or wasting time, quote, pushing paper. So what I would like to do right now before we launch into this next section is I'm just going to send a quick little poll for you guys. Okay. And in this poll, I would just like you to select, how much does this sound like your business? This typical shop that I've kind of shown you, how much does this sound like your business? If you just go ahead and click there on what your answer is. And we're going to wait a couple more seconds. I see the answers coming in, and we will close the poll in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and let me just kind of share the results with you. 13% of you said that this exactly describes your shop. Another 26% said many of these issues apply to us. Okay, which is a 75% nailed it. 42% of you said some of these issues apply to us, and then we only had 19% that said very few or we are rock stars that apply to you. So that means that if I'm adding these numbers up correctly, we're looking at about 60, almost 73% of you are experiencing at least 50% of the problems that I've shown through these slides. Okay. So that's good. That means that we got a good audience here for what we're going to show you. And so the next question is, okay, Jay, that's great. We understand we have these issues. What can we do about it? Well, that's where we're going to get into our top 3 things of what we can do about it. And the 3 things are, 1, real-time tracking on order status. And I'm going to show you all these things. Number 2, communication between employees. Number 3 is communication with customers. So if you could fix just those 3 things, if you could make those 3 things better at your company, more efficient at your company, you're going to solve a lot of these issues that we're talking about. So with that said, now I'm going to get into the kind of like product demo portion of our webinar. And let's flip over to our OnSite program. OnSite, ShopWorks is the company. OnSite is the software that I'm showing you. Some people refer to them kind of as the same thing. We don't mind that, but I'm just making the distinction for you. And this software has been been used by about 1,100 companies in our industry, over 1,100. We've been doing this for over 20 years, and this is probably our 15th version of the software. Now, the way our software works, you have your main departments across the top, and the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these represent your order flow: sales, purchasing, receiving, production, shipping, and invoicing. So that's really what we're talking about, is workflow. That's these different 5 categories here. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you a sales order. I'm going to show you the tools that you have on that sales order to have better communication, better information, and then I'm going to show you how that then communicates to the other departments and with your customers in the system. So I'm going to bring up an order. I entered this earlier today. This is a customer that we've done a lot of business with. It's the DC Special Olympics. And if I click on that order, I can see a bunch of different information. I can see the customer information, including a date order placed and requested ship date. Notice this is stamped as a rush order because we have a criteria. If it's 7 days or less, I want it to be stamped as a rush order. And that rush will appear on computer screens and also on paperwork. We also have like a little communication center here. It's not called that, but you have 2 tabs, activity and internal messages. And I want you to think of this as your little communication center. And activities can be thought of as external communications and to customers, for example. And internal messages are our internal communications on this order. So that's one. These are 2 of our main communication tools. I'm going to show you a third communication tool here in a minute. If I click on the design tab, and one thing I'd also like you to notice before I move from here, notice your order status. So on your order status, this is a brand new order. Nothing's been done. Now these order statuses are hardwired into the system. Up to 3 of them are customizable. So up to 3 of them you can, or actually it might be 4, are customizable. You can make them whatever you want. But a lot of this is hardwired to the system, and it represents the different departments. So for example, purchasing, subcontract purchasing, receiving, production, shipping, and invoicing and paid. These other ones that have a secondary status, these are your custom statuses. Now the beauty of these statuses is that they're going to change as other people are using the system. So for example, let's say somebody in another part of my shop right now was working on the same order and they did purchasing on it. I would see the purchasing switch from no to yes or no to partial. It's real time, and it would change on my screen as that person is using the system. So it's important to keep in mind everything here is real time, and everything, these statuses will change as people are using the system. But right now, nothing's been done yet on the order. And if I go over to the design tab, you can see we have a design on this, the full front and a full back. If I zoom in, I can see the front print and the back print. This happens to be a screen print order. Our software works equally well for embroidery, other types of embellishment on apparel, promotional products, point of sale, if you're just selling retail type items. It also works for the digital sign industry. So even though I'm just doing a demo today on a screen printed design, there's many other types of embellishment type you can handle in our system. If we go to the line items tab, this is where we can see the items that are ordered on the order. And notice that these tabs pretty much follow how an order form would follow. So if you have an order form, at the top of your order form, you typically have the customer, then we have the design, then we have the line items, and then we have other information as well. So the flow is very similar to an order form. Now you'll notice a couple things here. First of all, we use industry part numbers. We have a size matrix for each item. Now these prices on this particular items can come from your internal database. So for example, you can see here on this particular item, we're getting it from SanMar, and I can say get cost from product, which means our product database, or with select vendors, we can also get cost from vendor. Now what does that mean? What that means is that we have a real-time integration with SanMar and coming in January with Alpha and Broder. So what that real-time integration means, if I say get cost from vendor, this is actually going to go out and it's talking to SanMar. So if I say get cost, it's actually going to go out to SanMar, connect to my account, and this is not just their generic cost, this is the actual cost I'm going to pay today, $2.94. So I'm going to say apply that cost, and it's now in the system. Excuse me. If I scroll through to the next item, this is a double XL item. It comes out of our database at 482. If I click on get cost from vendor, again, it's coming from SanMar. And as of today, the only integration we have is with SanMar, but again, in January, we will have AlphaBroder as well, and more also in the future. So if I click on get cost, I can see the actual cost is 582. So I'm going to apply that in the system. So this real-time integration works not only in sales, but in purchasing, and you can actually issue the purchase order to the vendor. So I can electronically send my purchase order to SanMar. I don't have to call it in, fax it in, or go onto a website and place it. So now once we've entered the line items on the order, we then have our shipping. Now OnSite selects, you can have shipping to multiple addresses. So in this case, for example, I'm going to say select from customer, and I'm going to select 2 different addresses. And then on this shipping spec section, I'm going to specify which items I want to go to which address. Now I can get very complex in how I break this up, but I'm going to show you an easy way to, or basically a simple way to do it, is I'm going to send the first item to the first address, and I'm going to send the second item to the second address. That's a very simple way that I would do this. Again, you can get as complex as you like. So I could send, only a few to one address and the rest to another address. I can break it up however I want. And this information is then going to appear on computer screens for your shipping department, and also it's going to appear on forms. Now, another part of communication is notes. Notes are to departments, not to individuals. So, for example, if I want to stamp a note on here, let's use some real world examples. So let's go to Notes, Edit, and make sure design is 3 inches from collar. Customer is very specific with this. Okay, so that's my note to the art department. I can add as many notes as I want. Notes are time and date stamped by the individual, and they can only be changed by that individual. So my notes cannot be overwritten by another user's notes, which is very nice. Now these notes are going to appear on forms. They're also going to appear on screens, and when people navigate to those departments, because these are departmental notes, when they navigate to those departments, these notes are going to pop up at them. So they're actually going to have pop-ups when someone, for instance, on purchasing, I'm going to put no substitutions allowed. Must be BPTs. So now if someone were to go to purchasing, this would pop up at them. And I'll show you that here in a couple minutes. So the internal communication, the notes are a part of it. But another part of it is I might want to send a message to someone on this specific order. Maybe one person, maybe multiple people. It's not a departmental note, it's a note to an individual. And that's done back on our customer tab in our little, what I was calling the communication center. We have internal messages. Now to create internal message, I just go to my little focal point tool. Focal point includes a message center in it. And I want you to think of this message center as an email, but it's not email. It doesn't go out over the internet. This is communication within your system only. So it's only used for internal communications. But I'm going to say a new message, and I'm going to pick someone I want to send this message to. Let's send it to Greg. I could send it to multiple people. I'm going to say QC check. And I'm just saying, hey, Greg, please make sure to check the tags on the shirt before sending. Maybe this is to my somebody in the freight department. Maybe it's somebody in production. This is just a one-to-one note, a note from me, a note to them. It's a message. So I'm going to send that message. Now what would happen is, and if I go to my sent items, I would see all my messages in here. Okay. Now what happens is that message is then recorded it's attached to the order. So it's not only in my message center, it's attached to the order, and I can see if it's been read or not. So because it's bold, I know Greg hasn't read this yet, When Greg's on his system, he'll get an indicator down here that he has new messages. He'd click on his focal point and he would see the new messages. So this is really a way to communicate inter-office communication on an order. And the beauty of it is all these communications, unlike email, are attached to the order. So you have a history of what's going on with that order. Activities are more used for when we're sending things to people and my customers outside of my organization. And I want to add that to as a note on the order as well. So for example, if I add an activity, let's say I wanted to send Steve an email. I'm just going to click on this little email button and a little pop-up will appear. And we're going to do an email outgoing, and it kind of changes the format there. And I'm going to select from stock email. So I can just type in my email, or in our system, we can set up stock emails. So for example, let's say I wanted to let Steve know that his order is ready. I'm just going to send in this stock email, click on send, and it will send it out through my email system. And then that's also logged onto the order. Now these activities can be anything. They don't have to be emails. If you noticed when I added one from my drop down, you have all different kind of things I can add. So I can add emails, I can add notes, I can add reminders. For example, let's say I want to do a follow-up with Steve. I'm going to schedule a call back, and so that's going to be on my calendar, but I don't want that to be today. I want to call him on Friday at 3 p.m. So now I've got scheduled. You can see here I have an email I sent to Steve, and I've also scheduled a call back with him for tomorrow at 3 p.m. or in 2 days at 3 p.m. So these activities can be from different employees. They can be for different types, and you control how these activity types work. So you can control the colors of them, what they say, if they appear on calendars, don't appear on calendars, who can change them, etc. You have a lot of control over that. Now, another thing that we can do is we can also, on this particular order, we can send customers a proof. So a proof can be an approval of artwork. It can be an approval of the invoice. It can be a lot of different things. So let's just say I want to do both. Okay. I'm going to say I want to send him his invoice. And in the same approval, I want to send him some art approval as well. So I created my proof. I'm going to call this order approval. I'm going to send him two different things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to send him a form. And the next thing I'm going to do is send him a design. And let's add one more. Let's select design and send the back. So I'm going to have him approve the order and approve the design. Now, and I'm going to go multiple. There's different types of approvals. I'm going to make this multiple so he can approve or disapprove of either item. Single means they have to choose one. Absolute means they have to approve or decline all of them. So instead, I'm going to do multiple. That'll allow my customer to either say yes or no to either of these items. Okay, I'm going to release this. Now what it's going to do, it's uploading this over the internet through to proof stuff. And then the next step, I'm going to send Steve an email. So here's your order approval. Thank you for your order. Okay, and then I'm going to insert the link here. So what I'm sending Steve is I'm not sending him attachments. I'm sending him a link. And then Steve will click on that link, and I would click on send now. I'm going to cancel that step, but I would send it. And now, when I go to this proof, let's see what the customer sees. When the customer clicks on that link, this is what they're going to see. So they're going to get an email. They click on that email. It opens up a link. It's not going to say source logo. It's going to say your company name. This is all customizable by you. The colors are customizable. Your instructions are customizable. And you see what the customer sees. Each item can be approved or declined. And we have separate webinars on how proof stuff works. But just to let you know, this whole proof management is done within your on-site system. So the picture I'm trying to paint for you is communication. That's really kind of the nail I'm trying to hammer here. So when you're done with an order, let's say this order goes through its different paces, and I'll show you that in a minute. But let's say your order goes through everything, and then the order's completed, and you come back to this order 3 months later, 6 months later, 9 months later. Well, all this history is preserved, so I can see the different activities we had with the customer. I can see the different internal messages we had on this order. I can see what was approved by the customer in the approval process. So not only does this help answer questions if the customer calls you now, but it helps you 6 months, 9 months, a year down the road. If the customer contacts you, you can answer questions about their order, what they did last year, how it went. You can also clone this order. So let's say this order was ordered again next year. I could simply clone this order. It would duplicate everything. Now it's not going to duplicate the activities, internal messages, because it's a new order, or the proofs, but it will bring over the design, the line items, and all the other information, and then you can edit as needed. So that's a huge time saver when you're doing reorders. Okay, so that kind of handles a lot of the communication. One more piece of communication I want to show you is manage orders. So what we're talking about now is if a customer calls us and if they have information on this particular sales order, we have the ability to tell them almost anything about that sales order while I'm on the phone with the customer, so very quickly. So for example, if I click on this order, let's say the customer calls me and he wants to know the status. Well, Steve, here's the status of your order. I can tell him. Oh, you need more details? Okay, let me click on the order. What would you like to know? Here's the things I sent you. Here's the design we're doing. Here's the items we're producing. This is how we're shipping it, where we're shipping it. These are the approvals that you have or have not acted upon. So we have a complete information at our fingertips to answer that customer's questions. It's not in their heads. It's not in one of my employees' heads. Rather, it's in a system. So if somebody's out of the office, if somebody's on the road making a sales call, whatever reason, if somebody's in the bathroom and a customer calls and has a question, I can answer their question. I don't have to get back to them. And it just makes us a more nimble, quicker, faster company. So that's great. Okay, now let's say you start getting a lot of customers, you start getting a lot of orders. In fact, let's see what that looks like. If I go out here to my orders main menu and I click on orders in progress, view all, I have 101 orders in house right now. And these are all different kinds of customers. And I can see different delivery dates. I can see if some orders are on hold or not. I can see the order types. You can customize the order types, but this is how I have it set up for this. So we have screen printing, I have embroidery, I have combo orders. We're doing screen printing and embroidery. We also do digital printing. So I have the DTG rather, so direct to garment. I have digital, which might be signage or something like that. So you have all these different order types, awards, all these different award types. You can set order types. You can set them up however you like. But I have all these customers with all these orders, and I might get lots of calls and lots of questions. So now the next question is, well, that's great that I can do all this stuff, but how can I let the customers help themselves? Not every customer wants to help themselves, but a lot of customers do. And that's where another product I want to show you comes into play. It's called Manage Orders. So I showed you proof stuff. If I go over to Manage Orders, now I'm already logged in. Okay, I'm logged into Manage Orders as an administrator. And what Manage Orders is, it's not real-time information. There's about an hour delay, so it's updated hourly, but it's a copy of your on-site system, a copy of your orders and everything displayed for customers. So I'm an administrator. I can see every order in the system. But if Steve Hocker from Special Olympics were to log in, he would only see his order. And when he clicked on his order, he would see whatever details you want to show him. In other words, this is customizable. I can customize what I want to show them in what order. You can also customize these little tabs up here, order, payments, proofs. And look, there Steve can see he has an open proof. And if Steve clicks on that open proof, lo and behold, that's the same proof that we had before, that we showed him before. So manage orders is an ability for the customer to log in and they can see their designs. They can see the details of their design. So they can log into your website and see this information themselves. If they had multiple orders, they'd be able to see multiple orders. And to take it even a step further, they are able to pay. So if you wanted your customers to pay on here, they can pay with credit card, they can pay with a check. So it handles both ACH payments and credit cards. And then that payment information is transferred back to your on-site system. Okay, so there is some syncing of data that's going on here. Orders from on-site are going to manage orders, payments from manage orders are going into your on-site system. But the benefit here is allowing your customers less load on your customer service and allowing your customers to get their own information and pay for things. And this only doesn't have to only do with orders in progress. It could be invoices as well. So you kind of choose what information you want to be on manage orders. It can be orders in progress only, invoices, both. You have a choice there. Okay, so in my little slides here, I mentioned two of the top three things that we were concerned about, or ways that we can improve our order flow, is communication. Communication between employees on each order, communication with customers. So I think I've kind of answered that question for you, or at least the basics of it, how it works in our system. You have a lot of tools available to you and a lot of ways to communicate with the customer, and most of it is done very efficiently and from within the system. So that makes it a very nice integration with your on-site system. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at is I want to look at real-time tracking on order status. So we kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning, and let's explore that a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip back over to on-site, and I showed you all these different these orders. Now I can break this information down. So for example, I could say, show me only orders this month. Okay, and that's the orders we have in-house this month. I could break this further down. I could say, show me by order type, show me by company, show me by salesperson. So there's different ways you can break this information down. When I have my information, in this case, I'm going to go to primary status. And primary status is a sort of a spreadsheet view showing me what's going on with each sales order. And again, this is where we talked about, this is the real-time information. So these things are going to be updated as people are using the system. So let's go over to the purchasing part of OnSite. Pretend like I'm a separate person on a separate desk across the office, and I'm doing purchasing. So I go into my little purchasing module here, and I'm going to say all not purchased. Just show me. Now I can do searches here. I can break down information by dates or order types and salespeople and all that sort of thing. But I'm going to go ahead and say, just show me everything not purchased. And I can see here, excuse me, that I have 61 orders to do purchasing. Now in our system, purchasing and inventory kind of mean the same thing. So with these orders, I have the option of pulling them from inventory, purchasing them, or doing a combination of the two. Now I might sort this by requested ship date. And then obviously we're in December. You would hope to not see these since October. That's an overdue order. But I would sort by date, and then I would go in here and start making my purchases. So let's go ahead and look at the same order that we were just looking at, the DC Special Olympics. I'm going to sort by company name, and there's DC Special Olympics. And when I go into this to do purchasing, notice I get that pop-up. So remember how I talked about the pop-ups before? If someone enters notes to purchasing or departmental notes, those notes are going to pop up in the appropriate department. So here's my notes to purchasing. Okay, so I know Jay, the salesperson, has told me, my name's Bob, that no substitutions allowed. We must use Haynes BVTs. Okay, I can't make any substitutions here. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do my purchasing. Now, if I click on the items, you can see here it's defaulted to SanMar. I can change that. I don't have to get it from SanMar. I could get different items from Alpha Broder. In fact, let's say in this pretend scenario that SanMar, we're going to get the first item from SanMar. We're looking on their website. They have them available. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that on SanMar. This one I'm going to take off of SanMar because I'm not going to get them from SanMar. So I'm going to go ahead and add my purchase order. It automatically creates it to SanMar. There's no vendor contact. I'm doing this online, so I'll just put that. Shipping method. I'd put whatever shipping method I've decided, shipping amount if I know it, invoice number if I know it. These can be added later. And then I'm simply going to issue the purchase order. Now, when I issue that purchase order, notice on the order status has changed. The purchasing is changed from no to partial. If I were to, the same thing would happen if I was in my sales department. I'm in my sales department and there's the same order, DC Special Olympics, no to partial. That's not computer specific. So if someone was across the shop or looked at this order somewhere else in the system, they would see the same information. Okay, now let's go view that purchase order. And this is where I could modify the price. I can also send the PO to SanMar. So in this case, I could actually send PO. I would select the items. I would select the shipping address, check availability, and then I would submit the PO electronically. That's only with SanMar, Alpha, and Broder to be added in January. Now, anybody else who we want to send the purchase order to, we just go to print. I would send them an invoice. I can email stuff from here if you're sending it via email. If I'm calling it in, obviously I just give it to them verbally. And you also could be doing it online. So that's the 3 different ways that people typically place their purchase orders. And so you would handle it one of those ways. Now, when I get to my receiving department, okay, again, now I'm another person, Janet, and Janet's in receiving. So Janet, when she goes to all not received, she's going to see this is every purchase order that's been issued that has not been received. Now, some of these are for product, but we also have purchase orders for subcontracting. So if you're somebody who does no production, you do no embellishment, and you're a sales house, and then you subcontract everything out, our system can handle subcontracting as well. So in this case, there's my SanMar order. That's the PO we just issued. Now, no items have been received. Okay. So let's say I received the items, but not all of them. So what I can do here is I'm going to specify alternate quantities. They only sent me 100 of those, and they sent me 299 of the XL, so they must have made a mistake. I'm going to click on receive. Now, once I do that, notice that it now breaks up into 2 sections. This purchase order is partially received. And if I go back to the sales order, notice our sales order for DC Special Olympics. It's the second to last order here. Let's make it the last order. It's now the last order here. Notice the receiving is now changed to partial. Okay. So again, this is real time as people are using the system. Now, the other items that need to be received, I need to go to the kind of troubleshooting mode. What's going to happen here? Well, maybe these are going to come in tomorrow, so I'll just leave it open. Maybe they're not going to come in tomorrow. Maybe they're never going to come in. And so that they need to get sourced from a different vendor. Well, then I would hit return. And in that case, I'm going to return it. Now, this particular purchase order is fully received, but the order itself still needs to have purchasing done. And here's the beauty of it. If I go back to purchasing, notice now in my purchasing queue for that particular sales order, there's still remember we had the double XL that we were going to get from Alpha? Well, now added to the list of things that we need is 25 and 1 of the 5180 non-extra sizes. And the reason why is because we had ordered them, but they weren't fully, they didn't have them. We didn't get them, and they're not coming from SanMar. So we have to source them from someone else. So we would just go through the cycle again. My purchasing agent now knows that they need to do this. If you wanted to, this kind of starts to get into procedures. You could also have your receiving person could send a note. So they could put a note on receiving. They could also send an internal message. So if they wanted to, they could send a message to someone, the purchasing agent or the salesperson. Hey, the SanMar goods didn't come in. Doesn't look like they're coming in. So I need you to get them from someone else. The receiving person could do that. So that's where you're going to have options, and procedurally you're going to determine what's going to work best for your company. Production. If I say all not produced, there's different ways to look at production in our system. We can look at it by report. We can also look at it by a calendar. So if I say all not produced, these are all my orders that need to have production done on them right now. There's a lot of them, but if you go down to the bottom, you will see the DC Special Olympics. and it's telling me that I need to do a full front print and a full back print. It's doing that automatically based on the design information. It's also scheduling it for me based on some default values that we put on the equipment and the order type. Now I can change what machine we're going to put this on. Like let's say, for example, we have 475 imprints we need to do of the front and the back. On the front, let's say I'm going to put that on a 6-color manual press. Okay. Now that's telling me it's going to take 25 minutes to set up and 13 hours to produce. And that's based on the machine settings. There's another settings section in here. Let's change this one. The Sportsman 8-color is an automatic press. I'm going to do the back on that. And it only takes me 25 minutes to set up and an hour to produce. So I'm going to switch this one back to the Sportsman. Okay. Now I can also look at that in a calendar format. So if I go to my calendar, we have different kinds of calendars in the system, but one of the most important ones is the production calendar. And I'm going to go to a monthly view on that. And I'm going to look at all my different production types. And I can see for the month of October, November, and December, that's all my production I have scheduled. And I can see it by the type of embellishment it is. I could break it down. So say, for example, I only wanted to see screen print. Okay, that's all my screen printing production. And I can drill down to a daily view. And I can drill down a weekly view, excuse me. And then I can drill down to a daily view. As I drill down, I get more information. And if I click on the final drill down, it'll take me right back to the sales order in production mode. So we have separate webinars and videos you can watch, details and all this stuff. I'm just kind of giving you the overview, but I want you to understand that once you enter an order into the system, it automatically goes to these different departments. These different departments automatically have visibility on these orders because the data is only entered once. You're not having to enter it multiple times into the system. Same thing is true of the shipping department. The shipping department, all not shipped, is basically just going to show orders in progress, but I really don't want to ship them until production is done. So you might have a stored find that says shows me all produced orders. So there's a produced order, Gaslight Picture House. Here's the items on it. I can see if I go to tracking, I can see tracking numbers that we import from our FedEx or UPS system. And our system OnSite is two-way integrated with all the major shipping carriers. And that means that when I'm in my let's say UPS World Ship program, and I type in this order number, it will suck in these addresses. You will not have to rekey in these addresses manually. It'll bring them automatically into UPS or FedEx. That's one way to integrate. Another way to integrate is this package tracking information can be imported automatically, okay, from your UPS, FedEx, etc. So you don't have to manually put these numbers in there. So again, if a customer calls you, let's say how this might work in the real world. You shipped an order out today. Our system talks to UPS, gets the tracking number. Your customer calls you back the next day and they want information on the package tracking. Okay. You can look in the system and you as a salesperson or customer service rep can give them that information. Not only that, if they're using manage orders, let's go back over here to if they're using manage orders, okay, and they look at an order, you can actually include the package tracking information. You can see a little box here that says tracking. This order hasn't shipped yet. If it had, and if we had package tracking connect to this order, they'd be able to see it here, click on it. It would take them to the UPS website, the FedEx website, etc. So I know I'm giving you a lot of information here in this webinar. This webinar is designed to just kind of get your brain going on and understanding how our system works with regards to order tracking and these communications things that we've talked about. So let's go back to our slides here. So the end result of using OnSite, what's the end result of everything that I've shown you today? Is lower labor costs. You can deliver orders faster. You're going to have happier customers and employees, and you're going to be able to get better analytics for managers and owners. I'm not really going into that in this webinar, but because all your data is in one system, it's easy to analyze. So just to show you I'll actually show you a quick example. If I go in here to analysis, and I say, let's see what we invoiced in September. And I could make these stored finds if I want, so I don't have to type it in. So there's my by order type, what my sales were in the month of September. And if I go to a summary report, it just kind of shows me that information in a summary format. And that's just very quick. That's just one analysis that I can get very quickly. So it makes it very easy for a sales person or a sales manager to track sales. Okay, a couple last things I'm going to bring up. I see some questions have come in, which I really appreciate. I'm going to answer those questions here in a minute. If you have questions about anything you've seen today, please type them in now, and I'll get to answering here in a few minutes. But while we're waiting for that, I would like to mention a couple things. Our software, ShopWorks, the company, and all of our software, it's not generic. It was designed specifically for our industry. We are industry people. We've been in the industry since 1993. I used to own a screen printing and embroidery shop. That's how we originally designed OnSite. And our software is designed for apparel people, but also promotional products, digital printing, awards and recognition. Anybody who puts logos on things. We do have a lot of experience here at ShopWorks. We've done over 1,100 installations since 1998. All of our people have industry experience. And if they didn't come with it, then we train them in it. So everybody here, because we only service this industry, they know our industry. You're unlikely to outgrow ShopWorks. Our current customers range from a 1-user system to a 100-user system. So Shop OnSite will work for you whether you're a small business or whether you're a large business, and everywhere in between. And maybe most importantly, all of our support, all of our training, all of our onboarding is US based. You can actually pick up a phone and talk to somebody. It's not all just done on the computer. And most of our customers, we get them up and running in 45 days. So I would encourage you to contact us if you want more information. If you go to our website, shopworks.com with an X, actually either spelling of it, shopworks.com, and you just click on this little request evaluation. We'll have a conversation for you, and we can do a more detailed demonstration and tailor the demonstration exactly for your business to show you how the benefits. And then you can make 2020 the best year ever for you guys. So I see some questions coming in. Let me go ahead and start addressing those, and we'll take it from there. So the name of the program is OnSite. Zoe asked that. Charlie asked, how accurate is that pricing? He's referring to SanMar. Is showing beef fees at $482 on their website. Well, on this demo, the pricing is very accurate, and it's linked to your exact account. In this demo, it links to a sandbox account used for developers, so it's probably not the most up-to-date pricing. But a lot of our customers use the SanMar integration, and it is their real pricing as of that moment. So it actually connects to your account, not to just generic SanMar pricing. Russell asked, will we be at the ASI Show in Orlando? We will not be at the ASI Show in Orlando. We will be at the PPAI Show, and then we attend all of the ISS and NBM shows. That's kind of our show schedule for 2020. Frank asked, can managed orders show what product has been received and what product is pending? This will eliminate phone calls and constant looking up orders to provide that information. So that's a great question. Let me show you what we're referring to there. On a order, if a customer is looking at that order, okay, they can see the status of that order, and the order would show as partially purchased. So Frank's question is, that's great that I can see it's partially purchased, but I want and partially received. Actually, received is more what he's interested in. But I want to see what's been received and what hasn't been received. That information is in OnSite. Currently, it's not part of managed orders, but that is being added in a future upgrade of managed orders. Managed orders gets updates about every 6 months, and OnSite gets updates about every year. So we are pretty aggressive in our updates. And that is something that we're already planning on adding because other people like yourself, Frank, have been asking for that same thing. Keith asked, do we integrate with QuickBooks? We don't. We have our own built-in accounting system. We have videos on that. We'll be happy to do a demo with you on that. We have our own full double entry accounting system. Now, we do have some customers that still cling to QuickBooks and they want to keep QuickBooks. That's probably only 5% of our customers. So if you want to use QuickBooks, then you would have to take your invoices and manually enter them into QuickBooks, which is, we don't recommend that. But Keith, we'd be happy to show you our accounting components if that's something you'd like to see. Lauren asked, what does locking a PO mean? So in our system, when you have a purchase order and I lock it, I don't have proper access rights, but if I had been set up to allow locking, then I would be able to lock it, and that would prevent other people, even though those people have purchasing access rights. And I didn't mention that before, but that's a good question, is that all of this is access controlled, the entire system. So don't think that every single one of your employees is going to be able to prowl around in each of these different sections. You're going to be able to control who can see what. But even if I can get to purchasing by locking it, I'm saying no one else can change that until I unlock it, or unless they have admin privileges. So it's just another level of protection on your purchase orders. Keith asked, how do you handle receiving customer supplied garments? Another great question. If you go to an order, let me just bring up any order here. I'll bring up, make sure I find one that's going to work for us. Let's try this one. So if you look at line items on an order, there's a setting on line items, and you can make this default, so it doesn't have to be something you change manually. But you can see here, customer supplied. So on any individual product, now this one I can't change because I've already ordered it. Let's see about this one. Nope. So this one allows me to do it. So now this third item is not a purchasable item. It's a customer supplied item, which means it's not going to be purchasable, but it is going to be in receiving. So my receiving department is still going to expect it, but we don't have to issue a purchase order for it. And that's customer supplied. So that is an option within our system. Rhonda asks, if you create your PO by using line items rather than by order, is there a way to send directly to SanMar and Broder? Yes. Purchase orders can be created from an individual sales order, or you can gang line items from multiple orders together, and you can put them onto a sales order, a purchase order. And in either of those cases, the PO can be sourced and or electronically sent to the vendor. And again, SanMar now, Alpha Broder by January. Ron asked, can the items be sorted alphabetically the same when they are on SanMar orders? PO items be sorted alphabetically the same when they're on SanMar orders. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think you're saying if there's multiple items on here, will these be alphabetized? And I think they do when you print it out, yes. When you send it to them electronically, I think it's probably just sent in the order that it was added to the PO. I'm not 100% sure on that. Russell asked that he does printing and promotional products and have in-house embroidery. Can OnSite also handle the printing side of our business? Yes, it can handle the printing side of your business, and we'll be happy to set up a demo to show you that. But yes, it can handle offset printing. I said when you're referring to printing, I'm assuming you mean offset or digital printing. It can handle both, as well as screen printing. Rhonda asks, when using internal messages, is there a notification system or graphic for individuals who know they have new messages? Yes, there's a graphic. So it doesn't beep, but if you look down here, every single screen in OnSite has this little new messages area. And when I have new messages, this will be red and it'll tell me the number of new messages. So as messages come in and I'm using the system, that number will get updated. Lauren asks, is there a demo platform where I can have staff practice without changing our actual data? No, Lauren, we don't have that. There are some ways you could practice on your actual system, but you'd have to be a little bit careful with that. The orders don't get fully processed. Maybe you'd make an order type called a practice order or something like that. But we don't have a demo for customers to do that. Keith asked, can you record actual quantity by size, produced versus scheduled on an order? Yes, you can. Can you record produced versus scheduled? Yes. So when you get to your when we're in our production area, and when you now our screen, something I didn't really touch on, we can get into more detail if you want an individual demo, but we have a touchscreen interface, and that's for use on the shop floor. So let's see, our order number was 1415. 1415, that was our Special Olympics order. And when you do that, you can see here, the person on the shop floor has all of the information. They have a bigger screen with bigger buttons. And when they go to quantities, they have a quantity requested. That's what was purchased, and they have an actual quantity. So as they actually produce the quantities, they'll enter in their actual quantities that they're producing. So hopefully that answered your question there. Keith asked, can I include printer sheets covering mesh to use, pressures, angles, etc.? Well, a lot of that, you'll have to decide that. A lot of that is in our design information. So when you go look at a design, and you can see here mesh, durometer, angle, pressure, squeegee, film location, angle, spec code, all these are customizable. So you might make some of these fields that you put that information into. Or if you have some sort of spec sheets, I'm assuming that's a PDF document or something, that would not be in our system, to be honest with you. You'd probably have that outside of our system. Brooke asks, are there bulk order entry templates to speed up order entry process, and how do you upload to OnSite? Another great question. Brooke, there's different ways you can get orders into OnSite. You can enter them manually. They can come from your website, and we have an integration for taking orders from websites and then sucking it into our system, so they would not have to be manually entered. We also do have templates. So if I go to sales, and I'm not going to get too much deep into a new order, but let's say we have these different order types, okay? You can populate line items from templates. So when I go to line items on an order, I can add single, I can add multi, and from any of these, I can pick from a template as well. We also have other ways you can enter items. For example, you can use Sage. We have a Sage integration, which integrates with the Sage online system. That's another way that you can get items into our system. Keith asks, can I see what ink colors each order is using so I can schedule jobs with common inks to reduce setup time? Yes, there is a way to do that. That would be a report you'd run that would show you the different ink colors. And then you'd be able to schedule accordingly that way. I'd have to play around with the system to see the best way to get that for you, but there's definitely a way to get that information. Kim has a statement that he's discovered there is setup required on SanMar's end to be able to use the integration. That is true. If you want to use the SanMar integration, you got to talk to SanMar. They'll set you up for a special kind of account. They'll give you credentials, and those credentials have to be entered into our system so that the two systems can talk together. Brooke asks, is there a manage orders type of site for sales reps to enter orders? Almost like an API that would go straight into ShopWorks. Well, you have some options there. You can use any kind of shopping cart or whatever you want, and those orders can go into ShopWorks through our API. That would be one way to do it. Another way to do it would be to just give your salespeople access to OnSite and only allow them to do order entry. And you can do that through remote desktop sessions. In fact, I'm in one right now. So this would work on a laptop or on a tablet. And they'd be enter the orders right on the fly, real time. Of course, that requires an internet connection. So there's a couple different ways to handle that for your sales force. Keith asks, can I set up auto emails to customers as specific statuses are achieved? Yes, we have an email that's done through email notifications. We have a system internally for doing that within OnSite. And so you can flag customers when their orders shipped, when their orders invoiced, etc., and it will send them in text or the copy of their invoices or whatever. I believe I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Reese asked, or Riss asks, are managed orders and proof stuff additional memberships? They are. They're not. Proof stuff is $75 per month. That's unlimited users, and it gets you, I think, 1,000 or 2,000 proofs per month. And managed orders is based on your user count. So it's not really per user, but it's based on your total user count. It's in brackets. So I think the lowest bracket is $199 a month. And if you bundle the two, if you do proof stuff and manage orders, it's cheaper to do the both together. But we can certainly get you more pricing information if you're interested. Russell asked, do we have a cloud-based solution? What you're looking at now, what I showed you today, is our cloud-based solution. Now, OnSite runs on a server. So that server can either be locally based, or it can be, like in this case, this is a server, a cloud-based server. So it's not a web-based program. It's still a database-based program, but it's in the cloud, if that makes sense. So that means I can get at this from anywhere. And our cloud-based servers have full email capabilities, full Windows capabilities. So you're actually getting like a full computer in the cloud. We do the backups for you. We also do all the Windows upgrades and all of the on-site upgrades. So if you're a cloud customer of ours, you don't have to do any of the upgrading process or backups. We handle that for you. Lauren asks, is the status able to be removed from the customer view? I believe she's referring to manage orders, and we don't want the customer to see all these statuses. Yes. You can actually pick and choose which ones you want to show them. So maybe I only show them invoice and paid, or maybe I show them shipping and invoice or paid, or you can just pick and choose. Now it's one setting for everybody, so it's not by customer, but yes, you can customize the statuses. And Russell asks, can you convert quotes to purchase orders? You can't convert quote to purchase orders, but everything in our system becomes an order first. You can't a purchase order is going to be linked to an order. So to answer your question, yes, I can change a quote to an order. And then from that order, I spin off as many purchase orders as I need to fulfill the goods for that order. So that's just kind of how the links in our system work. So I think to answer your question, the big picture is yes, but it's not creating the PO directly from the quote. Okay, but it is generated from the purchase order that came from the quote, if that makes sense. Excuse me, from the sales order that came from the quote. So it's quote to sales order to purchase order. Okay, these have been great questions. Thank you everybody for your time today. We're going to wrap things up. Please contact us if you would like a personalized demo specifically for your business. It only takes about 45 minutes, and we can answer your one-on-one questions. Thank you very much for your time today, and we will let you know where the video resides on YouTube if you want to rewatch it or share it with other employees. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.